Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Logan and today we're going to be looking at two Lenormand decks, the Black Salt Lenormand and the Pink Sugar Lenormand, which are twin decks that I myself created and with the help of my beautifully generous Kickstarter backers was able to bring to life this year. These are currently in my shop and shipping out, and it's been so exciting because so many people have been tagging me on social media and commenting on the Kickstarter campaign saying that, oh, my deck arrived and I love it and so on and so forth. So it's been a really fun week. I just finished sending all the rewards out a few days ago, so it's been lovely, but let's get into it. So the backs read slightly differently from each other because they describe the decks, but let's read the pink one. The Pink Sugar Lenormand is a 40-card divination deck designed to captivate and illuminate. Its cards feature dreamy backgrounds, holographic gold foil artwork, and matte pink card edges. So in the case of the Black Salt deck, we have black backgrounds, we have silver holographic foil artwork, and we have matte black card edges. Perfect for Lenormand experts and beginners alike, comes with a fold-out of card meanings. These boxes are my favorite kind of boxes, which is the magnetic clasp ones, and they have little star designs on the inside of each of them. They also have like a nice lace print on the fronts and backs, thanks to UV spot finishing from the printer, which I really enjoy. So let's get into it. We're going to do a side-by-side flip through so you can see all the cards, and I'll tell you a little bit about the deck and the cards as we're going through it. So instead of Rider, we start with Skater, and the reason we're starting with Skater, or rather using it instead of Rider, is because I wanted this deck to feel like nostalgia. I wanted it to remind me of my childhood and of that childlike sense of wonder, and for me, the thing that encapsulates that really, at least in the means of like forward motion, is skating rinks. It's spending hours and hours and hours with my friends, having a blast at skating rinks while, the music blasts like Britney Spears and NSYNC and whoever it was that did Funk Soul Brother. Like, I can't remember if that's the name of the song or just what they say in the chorus, but fantastic songs like that back then. Just a fantastic time. So I was like, all right, we're gonna make this nostalgic. And so that's why we have Skater instead of Rider for the first card. And also, just real quick, look at those pretty edges. Look at those pretty edges. So also, the card backs. I have to confess, after doing this deck, I'm a little bit hooked on holographic foil. It's so dazzling, and I love shiny things. So Clover is very traditional. Several of the cards in the deck are quite traditional, and while the others do show my own whimsy and like lens view for the Lenormand system, they still by all means read perfectly well with a very traditional approach to Lenormand reading. There's no crazy deviation going on here from the standards. So in one corner, you'll always have a card number. We have titles at the bottom, and then in the other corner, we have the playing card association for each card. Boat. I wanted to have fun and have a little bit of whimsy with the impression of waves along the bottom here of the boat. House depicts a fireplace, and you'll notice on top of the fireplace, there's a tiny little clock underneath a bell jar. I did that because when I was growing up, my favorite place in the world, the safest place in the world, the cuddliest place in the world, was always at my grandparents' house, and on their mantle, they kept a clock under a bell jar. So that's my nod to them. I really enjoy Easter eggs in a deck, and so I don't know if we have any Animal Crossing fans watching this, but these are totally Animal Crossing trees. I saw it as an opportunity to add a little sugar and spice to the decks, and I went for it. I totally went for it. Because what's life without a little bit of whimsy and some Easter eggs of things you love being snuck in, right? Clouds. Now, with most traditional Lenormand cloud cards, you're going to have one side of the sky with the clouds is a bit dark or stormy, and on the other side it's going to be clear or calm weather, and so that's why on these cloud cards we have no rain falling on the left half and raindrops falling from the right half of the clouds. Snake. Who here played this back in the 90s? Way back then, my mom had a Nokia cell phone eventually, whatever, at some point in the 90s. And as kids do, I eventually found the Snake game on it, and I spent many a happy minute playing that game. And so when I was trying to think of what I could do to be a little creative or whimsical with this card, I was like, no, we could make it something more mythological or, Cabinet of Curiosities looking, but I felt the nostalgic route was the right route, and I've never seen, somebody else could have done this already. I have never personally seen it though, so I felt really good about it and was like, yeah, that's fits the brief, and it's a little campy as well. Then coffin is pretty standard. We have butterflies on the side of the coffin, just to drive home that this is not the end, TM. It's just something ending. It's gonna be fine. For bouquet, we have vases of orchids. Orchids are one of my favorite flowers, and so just any excuse to draw one, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna jump on that. I just think they're so elegant and almost alien looking. And vanilla is delicious, so let's put orchids in. Scythe, you'll notice, is a hand scythe and not like a big tall one. For this card, I wanted to imagine what a scythe might look like, or a hand scythe might look like, if it was owned by a magical girl from like an anime or a manga. And so if you notice, the bottom of the handle is heart-shaped. There's another tiny heart inside of that, a little cutout that's pretty hard to see on camera, I'm sure. There's a tiny star cutout at the top of the handle, and then there's another heart up here. Duster. So this is a replacement for Whip, even though there is a Whip card in here. Whip is one of the cards that it comes with an alternate in each deck, so if you don't like Duster, you can use the Whip card. So for Duster, the idea came from my friend, and I'm very appreciative of her. She was like, because I didn't want just a whip in it. Like, they're fine, but I have a lot of decks with whips, and I wanted something different. So I was like, maybe a broom, like something that, has that to and fro with the cleaning of it. But then, because a lot of people associate whip with arguments and battles and things like that, which has a volley and a to and fro. But we'll also associate it with cleaning, and then for a lot of people it's also a sexy card, because it's a whip and there's to and fro. Come on. So my friend was like, a feather duster could do the to and fro cleaning element and also bring that French maid element into it. So I thought that was a fantastic idea, and I'm very thankful for her sharing her genius. Now here's the alternate whip card, which is just cute and silly, because I like cute and silly things. So it's a strawberry with whipped cream on top. For birds, we have origami birds. I went back and forth on what sort of bird to use in this card, and nothing was just striking my fancy. And origami just seemed to really fit with everything else that I wanted for the deck. I've never been good at origami, but I tried as a kid. So there is that nostalgia factor. For child, instead of like a pacifier or binky or whatever, or baby, we have a Game Boy. Now, it is a Game Boy with a cherry blossom print on the front of it, which I would have killed for as a kid. I would still kill for that now, actually. I would totally be into that. But I figure this works really well in two different ways. So if you're not someone who ever played a Game Boy or had interest in that, in the 90s or what have you, maybe you were a parent and your kid had one, I figured, it's a child's toy, so it works in that way to represent child, but also in the sense of like inner child and going backward. That's what inspired this the most, because nothing tells me about my childhood more than like seeing a Game Boy. I feel like I'm going to say that about a lot of cards, but Game Boys were lifesavers back in the day. I was lucky enough to have one, and it made all of the difference in the world. For Fox, we have these lovely masks with little jingle bells on the sides. I'm sure that there's a proper name for this type of mask. It is slipping my mind at the moment. But yeah, I love masks. Ever since playing Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, I found them really fascinating. So yeah, every now and again I just get a hankering to draw a mask. For the bear card, we have a teddy bear, and our Easter egg in this one is that there's a Dragon Ball with 4 stars at the center of the bow. So, a little tiny detail, you know? I don't want to feel like I'm coming for everybody's IP and just stealing shit left and right, but I do want to have little fun Easter eggs for those who might recognize them and might take the time to look hard enough for them. For the star, we have a compass, because I personally at least associate the star with like hope and guidance. And so I thought a compass really fit that nicely. And the art for this is inspired by the locket that Tuxedo Mask drops in Sailor Moon, and then she finds it. It doesn't look like remotely the same. It's very different looking, but I was just loosely inspired. Saying that so that you're not like, what? That doesn't look like that. What are you talking about? So that inspired that. Stork, very traditional. I feel like Stork is a pretty tricky one, at least for me. I've done 2 Lenormand decks now, well, technically 3, and Stork is just always a design that I'm like, what am I doing? What's going to happen here? But I do really like the way it turned out. Dog, this is my mom's Shih Tzu named Gia, and she's a sweet baby angel, and she's the only dog in my life right now, and so it was a no-brainer. I was like, yeah, I could draw something like a Shib, or a corgi, a little corgi butt, because that would be really cute. But I love Gia so much. She's literally one of the best creatures I've ever met, humans included. And I saw a moment to like at least partially immortalize her until these paper decks crumble someday, and leapt for it because she's the best and she deserves it, and I love looking at her little cute face. Tower is a cat tree or cat tower, depending on how you call them. I thought this worked really well because I know a lot of people associate tower with like institutions, but for me personally, I look at it more as perspective and like getting high up. It can also be associated with isolation, which I feel cats also appreciate it for, because they're like, I'm up here, don't mess with me. I want alone time so I can look down and survey my kingdom. And yeah, so that's why they're cat towers. That one was fun. I had a lot of fun doing that one. Garden, we have fountains, and at the top of the fountain there's a little bird. I thought about doing topiary or something, and I think garden cards that depict that are still really beautiful, or like gazebos are great for garden cards, I think. But this one, just a fountain felt right. I've been wanting to do a fountain for a Lenormand deck for a while, and was glad that I finally got it out of my system. For mountain, we have a lovely peak here, and then there's a tiny tree at the top and little tiny trees in the negative space throughout here, as well as waterfalls going down it. Crossroads, pretty traditional, I think, pretty self-explanatory. I included the butterfly in these to sort of add a little extra hint or nod to like the butterfly effect, where it's like, because you know, Crossroads, you get to it and it's kind of one of those like point of no return cards, right? Like not necessarily in a bad way, but like you're at a crossroads, so if you go the one way, then the other way will be lost to you. So there are ramifications, I think. Not necessarily bad ones, it's just there's some pretty direct consequences. And so I thought a butterfly effect moment would be fun for that. Mice, we have little toy mice as a cat might play with. I had fun with this one. Little button eyes. I mean, I know it sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but when something brings you joy, you gotta hold on to it, right? Heart, this is another Easter egg card. These are based off of heart containers from Legend of Zelda. I want to say Twilight Princess. Big Zelda fan. The rings are ring pops. I didn't have very many of these as a kid, but I got to eat a couple of them, and it was always fun because I mean you can run around and act a fool and play with other stuff and not have to set your candy down. So I mean that's a great time, right? For book, we have just a simple closed tome with a triquetra on top. I guess the triquetra is for me on top of a book like this definitely a nod to Charmed, which was just my jam whenever I was in like high school, which wasn't the 90s, but I'm pretty sure it was out in the late 90s, early 2000s, so it gets counted in anyway, right? For letter, I really wanted it to kind of resemble like a text notification or an email notification. Not per se nostalgic or 90s-y, but yeah. Now for the significator cards, of which there are 4 total in each deck, they're all labeled person. 2 of them are bearded with varying lengths of hair, and 2 of them are unbearded with varying lengths of hair, because I think it's important that we all feel seen when we're using a deck. Yeah, I guess that's about it. And also they have long hair and beards because so many decks I feel like have really clean cut masculine appearing figures, at least in Lenormand decks. I myself have very long hair and I enjoy a beard, so I wanted to feel seen. And these are based on Roman busts. That's the idea behind these designs for the person cards. There's our other person card. For lilies, we have one of my favorite types of lilies, which are tiger lilies. I just think they're so vibrant and like sprightly. I love the way their petals curl back. Spider lilies. This is a tiger lily. Did I say spider lilies before? I meant to say tiger lilies. These are tiger lilies. I also love spider lilies, but these are not those. Sun. So these are inspired by a mirror that was in my grandparents' house that I now have. And it was a sunburst mirror, and it was kind of that, like, I guess Art Deco-ish style. So yeah, it's just another nod to home in the past and happy childhood moments. For moon, we have a rabbit sitting in the moon as per the Japanese folktale, right? This was also my like thank you, I love you nod to Sailor Moon, because her name in Japanese, Usagi Tsukino, literally translates to rabbit of the moon. Again, playing with that folklore, I suppose. And if you remember in the anime, her bed sheets always have bunny rabbit heads on them and little crescent moons, or her comforter, I guess I should say. So Sailor Moon's the whole reason I started making this deck, so I had to include another little thank you moment to the franchise. Key is, again, we have another butterfly design, and the bottom of the key is shaped like butterfly wings. For fish, we have, I want to say, I was going for those dark colored goldfish with the huge eyes, but I have heard some people say guppies, so I don't know if that's the same thing, or if what I drew was in fact not the big-eyed goldfish, but that's what I was going for. Anyway, I love fish with big googly eyes, and so I was like, yeah, we're gonna do that. And I don't know, something about goldfish seems comforting. You also have the nostalgia factor, because I feel like a lot of people owned goldfish as children, so I wanted to go for that too. And then for anchor, very traditional. We just have a stylized anchor. For card 36, which is the cross, we have 2 options. So one option is burden, which is represented here by a Tamagotchi, which if any of you owned or had children who owned a Tamagotchi in the 90s, if you remember them being fun, good for you. I didn't own one, but I had friends who did, and those things were such a pain in the ass. Such a pain in the ass. So, like, they're constantly beeping and going off and chiming at you for food, or needing to poop, or they've pooped and they need to be cleaned up. Like, it was, I don't know why this seemed like a good entertainment toy for children, but we ate them up for whatever reason. But yeah, they're total burdens. And so yeah, that's why that's why it replaces the cross card. And then for the cross, because I am I guess what you would call somewhat of like a recovering Christian. I'm not Christian, but I was raised in a Christian cult for the first quarter of my life almost, and I didn't realize it was a cult until like I was 23. And so I don't want any religious imagery whatsoever in my decks because I've looked at enough of it and I'm good. No happy memories there. So that's why we have crisscross band-aids. And we get to our remaining significator cards. So here we have the other person card, or the third person card, I should say. And then the final fourth person card. I do really like their short hair. It kind of reminds me of Ursula. Gives me some joy. And then I don't think I've shown the booklets yet. Well, booklet is a generous word, the fold outs. So each card gets 2 keywords, and then I make a note on the back of each one that says, these card meanings are merely my suggestions. Please feel free to use whatever meanings make the most sense to you. May your readings be kind and true, which is something I do wish for everybody who's going to pick up one of my decks, you know? I want the information they provide you to be practical and useful, but I never want it to be cruel or to worsen your feeling after you've used them for a reading, you know? I don't want them to sugarcoat shit, but they don't have to be mean at the same time. So yeah, that's, these are not facing the wrong way. I mean, the right way. I did a bad job with that. But that is the Pink Sugar Lenormand and the Black Salt Lenormand. You can find both of these decks in my Etsy shop, which I will link in the description below. And you know, they're a good little size. They're a traditional, maybe not traditional Lenormand size. They're 57 by 87 millimeters. So this is like a traditional tarot card size. So, you know, they're nice and small so that when you do your grand tableaus and you're using all 36 cards that a Lenormand grand tableau requires, there's no issue with spacing them out. So you have that. Anyway, I don't know how to end this. I really loved making this deck. If you're interested in either of these decks, I hope you will enjoy the shit out of them. They bring me a lot of joy. They've become my favorite Lenormand decks to read with. And so I feel like it was, oops, I accidentally just bumped the camera. I feel like it was a no-brainer to do a video about them because they're near and dear to my heart, and I hope that they can bring a lot of heart into your life. Yeah, even if it's just through the you know, having this on for entertainment or whatever. So thank you so much for sitting with me today and looking at the Black Salt Lenormand and the Pink Sugar Lenormand, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.